When I was 12 years old, I believed that blasphemy, which if you're a believer, you've heard the word. If you're not a Christian, you may have never heard the word, or at least in the context I'm describing. But the Bible talks about blaspheming the Holy Spirit, blaspheming God, and how you'll never be forgiven. And I remember hearing some kind of sermon as a young child about blasphemy, and I formed my set of beliefs about blasphemy based on this sermon that I'd heard. So I'm 12 years old, and I believed the blasphemy was as simple as, with your lips, uttering words out loud that said God was something opposite of who he was. And so one night I'm brushing my teeth. I'm not thinking about anything. I've just had a regular day. My mom told me, go get ready for bed. So I'm down in my basement of my little split level house, and I'm brushing my teeth, and the oddest moment happens. Brushing my teeth, I go to spit, I rinse out my mouth, and this thought pops into my head, say this. And I did. It just happened so quickly. And I stood up from rinsing my mouth and spitting in the sink, and I said, God is the devil. I just spoke it out loud. I don't even know where it came from. It was just like, there it was, say it, I said it. And then I was like, holy crap, I've just blasphemed God. Because I know he's not the devil. He's been good to me. He's blessed me. He's spoken to me. He's healed me before. He's done miracles. And I said it. And the only reason I must have said this sounds so crazy. Maybe you think I'm crazy. I was really crazy, but whatever it was. I thought the only reason I must have said that is because my heart is evil, and my heart is not for God, and it never has been. And that's why I have felt the way I have, is because my heart is not turned to God, or I never would have said that, because I know it's blaspheming God. And if I loved him, I wouldn't have. And in one moment, the simple thought and words that I spoke out that I didn't really believe, but I thought deep inside me somewhere I must. I literally believed that God had left me forever. I believed it. And I remember being in that bathroom at 12 years of age. And I remember just being sick, so sick. It's like everything that I could even slightly enjoy in life was gone, because it just mattered nothing to me. It's the very thing I had given my life and my heart to, Jesus, had been removed from me. I thought it. I don't know why I was so blind and so misguided, but I was. And I just agonized. And the agony didn't stop. I couldn't sleep that night. I cried. I cried. I cried. And I cried. My poor younger sister, who I shared the room with, she didn't sleep great either. And the next day I woke up and I felt dead. I felt completely dead. No emotion. Sick in my stomach. Nothing, literally nothing mattered to me. And I lost the ability to connect with people and to feel emotion and to enjoy anything in my life. And it carried with me, not just for hours, for days. Until my parents started to notice and they started to question, why don't you smile? Why do we hear you crying so much? And my sister was worried for me and praying for me. And I felt it was all useless because I had done an unforgivable sin. There was no going back. My heart was evil. God had rejected me. And that was the end. And the longer the time went on, the more I realized that everything good in all the world was not good when God wasn't in it. And I believed he was gone from me forever. And so people would ask me about it, and I couldn't talk, and I couldn't tell them what I'd done. I couldn't even tell anybody what I had done. I was just so confused. So I became incredibly depressed. And when I was alone and I would try to sneak away alone often, I would literally call out loud to God and I would say, just kill me now. Kill me, send me to hell now. I cannot bear to live in this world, seeing your goodness all around me, and being denied from experiencing it, because I realized and I experienced that goodness and love and beauty mean nothing without God. Because God created them first, and they are part of who he is in his nature. And it didn't matter how much goodness was given to me by others, and how much beauty was around me, and how much love my family tried to pour into me. I received none of it. And it literally meant nothing to me because I didn't have God. And so I couldn't tell people what I had done. I was so humiliated. I couldn't talk to anybody about it. And I just went deeper and deeper and deeper into this really dark abyss. And so I had a babysitting commitment that I had made a while back. And I went to babysit because, I was still plodding through life, just trying to somehow survive with the fact that I, was alive, and yet I had nothing to live for. So I went to my babysitting job and put the kids to bed, and I was cooking some food. She'd asked me to cook something up for her next day. And so I was cooking some food in the kitchen there, and I opened a drawer, and there was big, long knives in it. And I pulled out a really long knife, and I started sobbing. And I said to God, why won't you kill me? Why won't you take me? I'm agonizing day after day. I'm dragging everybody down with me. I can't take it anymore. If you won't take my life, I'll end it. I will end it. And I took that knife. The blade was like this. And I grabbed the handle, and I found my heart, and I put the edge of the blade on my chest in that kitchen. And I leaned my hand, and I measured the distance that I would need to step back in order to fall forward so my hand would land on the counter at the right angle to stab it into my heart and end me forever. I just can hardly believe I did this, 12-year-old girl. So I was okay, thinking through the logistics, is this going to work? How is this possible? How would I plan this out? And I remember, it's just so weird. I remember kind of going through these motions of gauging distance, this and that, all these things. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't move my hands, and I couldn't move my body. It was like I had lost nerve control of my muscles and my bones, just gone. And I remember in my head thinking, I'm just going to do it. I can't live a moment longer. I think this can work. And then when I couldn't move, all of a sudden, this extreme worry flooded over me. What if I attempt and I fail, and now I'm mangled, and I still have to live in this agony? Plus I'm mangled, and it doesn't, all of a sudden I became very, very afraid. And I was like, no, I can't do it. I'll do it another day. I can't do it right now. And then I could move again. I set the knife down, and I crumpled to the ground, and I sobbed, and I sobbed, and I sobbed, and I sobbed. And I think I probably cried for 2 hours until I figured, oh, they're probably coming home. I better get my composure back together. And then I went home, sick as ever. But I went home with a question in my head. Maybe the reason all of a sudden I felt that I couldn't move, and then this great fear came upon me that what if it didn't work, is because God put that thought and immobilized my body so that I wouldn't end my life. And a glimmer of hope rose up within me. If it could be true that it was God or an angel even, because it was weird, I felt I could not move. If maybe even an angel had been restraining me from moving, and God had put a fear that this may not work, and a doubt in my mind, if it were true that maybe God did that, the only reason I could fathom he would do that is because maybe he still loved me. And I had hope. Small sliver of hope, but I had some hope. And so my mom and dad asked me again, we need to get you help. And I said, I'm open to talking to somebody. Because for the first time in quite a while, I don't remember how long it had been exactly at that time, but probably a few weeks, I felt that maybe I should just look into hope a little bit and give it a chance. And that maybe God was more powerful than I even knew he was. And so I said, sure, I'll try some counseling. And so they found this guy. He was just a school teacher, Christian Bible-fearing guy. And he got this book by Max Lucado called In the Grip of Grace. And he's like, we're going to read this book. Because when I sat in my first session with him, I remember him asking me questions I couldn't answer them. I remember him saying, why is it you're so sad? And I could not say. I remember him saying, how can I help you? And all I could say is, I don't know. And then I cried. I felt totally ridiculous because I couldn't communicate. I was just so heavy. And so he's like, okay, we're going to read this book. And thank you so much, if you ever watch this video, for recommending that book. Because it was safe. I could take a book. I could go home. I could read it alone in the quiet. And I could cry. And I could feel sick and just release all the emotions I had. And I could ponder. And I could open my mind and my heart up to possibilities. Because of a book, it's what I needed. And I would retreat with this book. And if you have any questions about Jesus and about freedom and about grace, this is a great book, a really great book. And I could read this book and think. And God would put little thoughts into my head. And he would nudge me. And I remember going back for another session. And the man asked me, what did you think of? I can't even think exactly what happens in the book, but there's something about like a river of God's grace that completely submerges this person. And then she comes out completely covered by grace. And anyways, I think that's what it is. Now this is like, I'm almost 36. So now we're talking a little while ago. Anyways, I remember him asking me about it. What did you think of that? And I remember saying to him, it made me think that maybe there's a chance that even though I've done something incredibly terrible, and again, remember, I thought it was the most heinous thing I had done, and I couldn't tell people. I said to him, even though I've done something incredibly terrible, it made me think that maybe there's a chance that Jesus is strong enough to cover over all of that and to make me right with God again. And he prayed with me. And he prayed that I would experience and discover grace. And then I went home. And later, my family was gone. I was home alone. I went to my basement. I think this probably was like the next day already. I went to my basement. Nobody there. And I threw myself on the ground. I said, God, if there's even a chance for me, I give myself to you. Jesus, I desperately need you. I want you. Please forgive me. If you're as powerful as they say you are, maybe you can forgive me. And I threw myself prostrate, laying on the ground, and I sobbed. And all of a sudden, for the first time, like in that magnitude, for the first time in forever, but for the first time in a long time, I started to feel warmth, and the warmth increased. And all of a sudden, the entire room that I was in was filled with the glory of God. And Jesus spoke to me. I forgive you. You are mine. And I was saved. In that moment, nothing has ever compared to that since. Nothing. It was wonderful. And I know I'm sobbing like a total baby right now because it was quite the journey I'd been on, right? But it was wonderful. I remember laughing and like laugh crying, and then the whole room was bright. Like everything was just bright. And I felt so warm, and like my whole body was just trembling. And it was the Spirit of God taking over my life. And I surrendered fully to him. And I knew I was forgiven. And it was just quite that simple. And that my life was transformed, and the trajectory of my life, it really, really changed. So there are many other stories I want to share, but That one for me is the most pivotal story for me. And I believe that it illustrates, like, granted in a really odd way that most people would never experience, because probably most people are smarter than I was at that time, but it does illustrate just how much we need God. And I know, because I experienced it, that hell, I could care less about the semantics of arguing about what exactly hell is and who's going there and is it eternal or does God give people a second chance. I don't want to get into that. That is not what this channel is for, and that is not what I'm here for. What I'm here to share, because I know it, is that hell is the absence of God. And I was living it on the earth. And when Jesus saved me from that, I knew he could do anything. Anything. And my hope has been in him ever since. And it cannot be shaken, and it cannot be taken away. And boy, has the enemy of our souls, has Satan tried. There have been many things I've gone through since, and he has tried to take that from me. But my faith has been quite literally a rock that is unshakable. And on that rock, Jesus has been building up my life, building up my soul, building up my mind and my body in the strength of the living God. And out of that faith that literally has not been robbed or shaken by anything Satan has been able to do to me or confuse me with in all those years since, out of that faith, God has come through and Jesus has performed miracles. And he has spoke to me. And the things that happened in the Bible, in the New Testament, when Jesus came and people were healed and all these things were happening, I had been witness to those things. And some of those things, I have actually spoken out of the faith that I have in Jesus and the great, incredible love and thankfulness I have. I love you. So thankful. I have been able to actually speak forth healing, not just for other people, but for myself too. And I want to share those stories, and I'm really excited, and there will be many more videos coming. And I'm also very excited to share my great-grandmother's stories, because if you ever doubted that God is alive and that he's interested in your life, I can promise you that I have stories to share, and my great-grandmother's life has stories to share, and many other people have stories to share. I'm sure you can find somebody that prove that he is very interested in you. Very interested in you. Just as interested in you as he was interested in me. And he fought for me. It was not me fighting for me. I had given up on myself. But God fought for me. And Jesus fought for me. It's the most beautiful thing. Because on my own, I always feel unworthy. But when I'm with God, I feel like I'm on top of the world because of what Jesus has done. And I pray that you will experience that too. God, you are good. And just thank you so much for what you've done for me. And I pray that anybody who watches this video, that you would come through for them like you have for me then and many times since. In Jesus' name. Thanks for watching.